in Tokyo. So this image right here is a portrait of a guy named Weasel. I met him at a punk show. It's a part of a punk series, Punks of Color series that I've been working on for the past 8 years now. So highlighting like New York City underground punks. So that's one image. And then on another billboard in Tokyo is this image that I made of my cousin flicking me off. The only thing that I don't like about this is that my images are censored. Oops. On the billboards, as you can see, if you look really closely, like the kid in the middle, who's my cousin, flipping me off, it says censored. But yeah, it's that image I submitted to them because, first of all, it's of my family, and that moment, it feels like the yin and yang, like one kid's doing the peace sign, my cousin's flicking me off. So that image has always been like imprinted in my mind. So I submitted that photo for them to hopefully sell, and maybe I'll make some money, NFT dollars or crypto or whatever. I still don't understand that world, but yeah, so that's one big thing that's happened in my life recently. Any questions? Trisha, are you saying anything? I don't know. Oh, okay. So I don't know what else do you want me to share, or should I just talk about my work? I always start off with one image that it's a self-portrait of myself. This is in my room. I think I was like 18 or 19 years old. But this image always resonates with me because I use photography as a form of therapy. So in this time in my life, it was a very dark time. So I flipped the camera on myself. And as you can see, like my room is chaotic and crazy. And that's exactly how my life was. So the perfect depiction.
Is this in New York?
Yeah, so this is in New York. So a little bit of background about myself is I always say I'm a hybrid because I was born in San Antonio, raised in New York, but in the summers I'd be back in Texas. I also went to SAC for like 2 years. So yes, I'm a mix of both worlds. But yeah, so this image is like, I always come back to this photo because this is like kind of where I was trying to like find myself, whether it was identity. I don't know, I was trying to figure life out at that point. But I also, at that time, I was taking photojournalism class in New York at LaGuardia Community College. And I found out about this photographer. His name is Boogie. And he shot a lot of images of like gangster, like Bloods and Crips in public housing. And those photos are like very real and raw, but I grew up in public housing in these brown buildings behind me. And it really didn't show like my life and I wanted to show my perspective on how I live. Not everyone was like a gangster thug or whatever who lives in public housing. So I started to focus, a lot of my photos were of my life, my personal life. Yeah, a lot of my work is like deeply rooted in community and represents my life. It's kind of like a diary. Yeah, so that's one image. Any questions? All right, let's see. So I not only make photos, but while I was at SAC, I must say, I must shout out the Ranger because I've learned so much. I laughed, I cried, I learned how to write a cut line. So I have to shout out the Ranger for like guiding me, and I learned so much for my career right now. Like when I had an assignment for The Nation, I had to write cut lines, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad, because they were giving me a template. I'm like, oh, I know how to do this.
You just muted yourself.
Oh, okay, I'm unmuted.
I'm excited.
Was I muted the whole time?
No.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
face-
Anyways, let's jump back to, so I
Mhm.
make videos as well. So this was a montage that I made of local businesses on the west side of San Antonio, and my grandma, my family's restaurant is also highlighted in this video. So I wanted to share that with you all. I'm gonna play that. Oh, whoops. Sorry, y'all. See, I don't know what happened. Okay. All right. So the reason I brought you all to the West Side and that video is because so I come from a family of photographers. My grandfather, who owned that business with my grandmother, family business in the West Side, Guadalupe Anita's Cafe. There was a church across the street that you saw in the film. He part-time, like on the weekends, he was a wedding photographer. So he made photos of, he made extra money, but that's also was his love and passion, or is his love and passion. He still shoots every day and develops a roll of film a week. So that's, I got a lot of inspiration from my family. So not only my grandfather was a photographer, but my aunt became a fashion photographer. So that's how I ended up in New York with my mom. Not only a fashion photographer, but she became like a successful fashion photographer that I didn't even realize that she was a successful person until I saw that film, The Devil Wears Prada. Is it my screen still shared? Oops. How do I unshare my screen so you can see me? Can y'all see me?
Little, just unshare. Just go back to the share part and
It
unshare.
says new share.
Oh,
What do I do?
um,
Whatever. I can. Where was I at? Oh yeah. I didn't know how successful my aunt was until I saw that film, The Devil Wears Prada, and there was a line in there when she goes, "Get Steven Meisel on the phone," and he's like a really famous fashion photographer. And I was like, that name sounds so familiar. And I asked my aunt, like, who's that guy, person's name, Steven Meisel? She's like, I only assisted him for like 5 years. And I'm like, whoa. And then I started really paying attention to the work that she was making. And I'm like, wow, my aunt has done so much, in her life as a photographer. And so she was a big like influence and mentor for me. Like growing up, I was in the photo studio with her. But she would create like a fantasy world with her photography. So for me, I wanted to share like real stories. So I knew that fashion was something that I didn't want to focus on as a photographer. So that really helped, but also having two creatives in the family, like, and seeing somebody become successful at their craft, really like, I was like, I'm unstoppable, I could do this. Like my aunt did it, I could do it. But I mean, it wasn't easy. Like there was a lot of times where I'm like, I have no money. Like, I don't want to work a conventional job. So I was a dishwasher for some time. So I have like a whole series on me working as a dishwasher in Texas. I don't know if I can find those photos to share with you all. But yeah, so everything that I did in my life, I pretty much documented. So like anything and everything, even with my cell phone. For a time, I didn't even have a camera. I remember Mark would not even lend me a camera because I was shooting in the rain and the whole bag was wet. And he was like, we're not gonna lend you a camera anymore. And so I would have my friend Leda check out a camera for me so I could shoot. Yeah, so I did anything and everything to like continue to make photos, even if I didn't have a camera. I found a way to shoot. But yeah, so now that you know a little bit more about me, so when the pandemic, like first when we went on lockdown and whatnot, I was like, what am I gonna do now to stay creative? So I had time to look through photos, and this is the photo series that I've been working on for a very long time. Well, not very long, but this was 6 years of looking through images. So this is my book. I published a book called The Way We Were with the help of a woman. Her name's Deborah Scher, and she was the editor at Italian Vogue. And also the way things happen is I had a lot of mentors. I'm out all the time. So I go to art shows, I go to music events. So like I'm constantly meeting people. So I met this one photographer. His name is Ricky Flores. He shot in the Bronx in the 80s. So he has a lot of like the early hip hop photos, breakdancing, all that kind of thing. So I met him at an art photo opening in the Bronx like years ago, and we stayed in touch. So he's been following my work since probably I was like 20 years old. So he's seen me grow as a photographer. And he recommended me to this woman who helped me publish this book years on in my life. So here we are, and I had the time to look through 6 years of photos. And during this time, I was an educator, I still am, at an after-school program called the Lower East Side Girls Club, where I teach photography to middle school and high school girls. So that can be kind of stressful. So at the end of the day, I started going to see live music. And this is kind of how this series evolved. A friend invited me to a basement show in Brooklyn. And from that night on, I was addicted to seeing live music, but not only live music, but seeing bands that, you know, look like me, people who are playing look like me. Because growing up in New York City, the punk scene, I've been going to see punk shows since I was in middle school, but the bands were mostly white, male dominated. So for me, this was like my dream show. I'm like, yay, like I can finally see people look like me performing, and I feel comfortable and doesn't feel like this machismo like environment. So here are a couple of and this image was gonna be the cover, but it didn't end up happening. This image is one of my favorite photos, because this really sums up like why I love this community so much, because we could be moshing and having a good time, but like everyone always, the community comes together, lifts you back up, and then you continue like dancing, having a good time. So this photo really resonates with me.
To me, it's not changing from the end of the video.
It's not? Oh, you're not seeing the photos?
Mm-mm.
What do I do?
Here, I'm gonna unshare you, and then we're gonna have you
reshare?
start sharing again. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? It feels weird just talking to a screen and just seeing people.
Oh, where did your aunt start photography?
Oh, right, duh. That's why I ended up at SAC, because my aunt, so in that photo, the first photo that you saw of me, I was really depressed, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't know what's going on. So my aunt was like, you need to go study with my professor, what was it, McBride? And she called the school, and she was like, she asked for him, she spoke to him on the phone. She's like, you're still teaching there? I'm sending my niece to come study with you. And literally like a couple of days later, I was on a plane to Texas to go study at SAC. And then I was with McBride, and I was like, okay, this is cool and all. Like, it's not really studio stuff, not my thing. Ended up at the Ranger, and and never left the office. Never went to my academic classes, but I lived in the Ranger. They would have to kick me out sometimes. I would just be there hanging out.
You want suffer.
I
You
love
want suffering. Yeah.
suffered in a good way, because you know what? I always say this. The last time we spoke, I was like, now I know my ISO, because Dr. Lowe was like, I remember I shot in low lighting, and you kept yelling at me. You're like, what ISO? What ISO are you shooting at? And it never left my mind. Now I understand what ISO is. Thank you, Dr. Lowe. And then I remember in Dr. Lowe's class, he was like, shared one of my photos, and I'm like looking at my best friend Leda. I'm like, oh, he shared my photo. He's gonna say something good. And he lifted up the photo, and you're like, this is something you're not supposed to do. I would just get roasted all the time, but all that roasting, you know, helped me get to where I'm at now. So thank you.
No problem.
Okay, share your screen again.
All right, here we go. Okay, so this was the image that I was talking about.
Which one? I can see it.
Oh, you don't see it? I gotta reshare, right? You've seen these photos, Dr. Lowe.
It's not on the.
I know. I'm bringing it up.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so this is the digital book. All right, here we go. Now you see it, right? Okay, so this was the image that I was talking about, like when we're dancing in the mosh pit and you fall down, like someone's always gonna pick you up, and that's what I love about it. Everyone's, you know, the community is very tight knit, and you know, it's not, okay, so this, it's chaotic, but not. It's supposed to be like a timeline in a way, like a web. So these are 4 different collectives that have formed during the time that I was shooting these bands. So Hydropunk is a collective of artists that came together to host these shows, but they weren't only shows, they were benefits for maybe like local community centers or anti-gentrification, like spreading awareness, or anti-ICE, so it was more than just music. It was also like political and educational at the same time. So that was Hydropunk, which was based in the Bronx. Club A, based in Brooklyn. But what spiraled out of there is, like, you see it says mutual aid, it says some of the band's names on there. So that was just to give you like a little bit of context of what these different groups of communities were doing, art communities. All right, so this image here is in Brooklyn's part of Club A, which is Club Anarchy. So a lot of these spaces that I made photos in no longer exist. Rent's really high in New York, so we're not able to have these spaces. So now what's happening, especially because we're in this pandemic, a lot of things are just happening outdoors. So I've been documenting a lot of just pop-up shows with no permit, or maybe sometimes permit, just like happening in the street. So a lot of stuff is just street or sidewalk.
Who's holding the flash for you?
So back to my aunt. My aunt passed away in 2012.
Okay. Destiny, who's holding the flash for you?
Wait, I'm telling a story. My
Okay.
aunt passed away in 2012. When she passed, she left me her equipment. So I had Profoto lights. I have a softbox that I brought to this space.
Ah,
I have one light. Also, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to use that equipment. So I just was playing around with lighting. DIY, it's punk. So this was on like the 5th floor. So as I started shooting, I made friends with a bunch of these bands and artists. So they helped me bring, because that equipment's heavy. Like, it's the old school one with the boxes, the power box, and the stand is heavy. So I had these kids, just the younger kids, just like help me bring all that equipment up. Yeah, so this is one light, softbox. Yeah, I'm just gonna flip through some of these. So this is one venue called Silent Barn. This is in Brooklyn. So I broke it up within like collectives and venues. It's funny because I was like, I don't want to do fashion, but then the woman that helped me edit this book and published it was like, this is fashion. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so now I'm like addicted to making portraits, and I was anti-Flash for a very long time, and now I love Flash. So go through phases. Yeah, so throughout this book, I literally looked through thousands of photos, but I wanted you to hear the voices from the people who are part of this community. So I spent a lot of time talking to people on Zoom or email, and just wanted to collect different, little quotes from people. And so you can really hear what it was like, or what it feels like to be at these shows. So this is a quote from Damaris. She says, "We need our queerdos, our weirdos. We need this community. We need it to be expressive and free." So that's one quote there. Oh yeah, and this is the image that's up in Tokyo right now on the right side. Weasel, the uncensored version. Yeah, so a lot of my photos, I want you to feel like you're there. So I really get close to the subjects that I'm photographing. Like this one, I probably did get punched in the face, and at this show, my lens broke. But I wasn't using an expensive lens, so I wasn't sad about that. It was worth it. I got the shot. at the shop. So this was the first basement show that I went to, and that was when I was like, okay, I want to go see live music again. And Flor, she's in a band called Mafa. But yeah, I really want you to feel like you're there, get the expressions on people. And at this show, people were like, who are you? Why are you taking so many photos of us? And I had to tell them, like, I'm a photographer. Da, da, da. I started talking to people because photography for me is not like you make the photo and you leave and that's it. Like, I like to have a collaboration and a relationship with the people that I make photos of. So this is a Creature. He's in a Rebelmatic. That was from that first show that I shot. So yeah, I'm gonna flip through here. So I also, in the book, there's flyers involved. Yeah. I don't know, anyone have questions? Oh yeah, that one was good. Good shot. No questions? This one's my favorite photo. I don't know, just, I feel like she's gonna pop out of the image. Yeah. Let me flip through. All right, somebody asked me a question because I'm just gonna keep flipping. No? Okay. So this book is like 380 pages of shows. This keeps going. So this band's Los Crudos. They're old school band from Chicago. Bruja Luna. Oh, so this is, this show, there's like 4 people there, but I'm kind of glad because so now all these shows were happening back, where was it? I don't even remember, but pre this time period that we're in. So now people, like, we're back open and everyone's just like ready, has a lot of energy. So like everyone's at these shows now. At this show, there's no one there. So there's a lot of photographers. So it's harder to shoot these shows now because I feel like now most of these bands have gained popularity, and there's a lot of photographers. So I'm glad I captured this in its essence and beginning of growth of a scene, because I kind of have like the origins of a lot of these bands. Oh, I also collaborated with a friend. Her name's Daisy. If you guys are into like comics, she did the illustrations and artwork for the book. Okay.
So this is one of my. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. There was a question for you in the chat, but I'm going to let you talk about that picture first.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
Okay, so Rafi is asking you, how difficult was it for you the first couple of times when you shot concert photography with people pushing and punching you?
Yeah, it's difficult also because I didn't know like my flash situation, like what. So a lot of the bands that I saw were in the same venues, so I got to like learn my kind of like my lighting situation too. But as I kept going, I made friends with a lot of the bands and the crowd, the people who were at the shows. So they kind of became like my bodyguards, so they knew I was shooting. So like I had people in front like protecting me while I was shooting. So yeah, I am a part of the community now. So I have, my extended family looks out for me at this point. Because I was going to shows like almost every day, like after work, there was a show. I was shooting for like 6 years.
And these shows were like, so we're talking, when did they start? Like 1 a.m.?
No, they were early. Some like start at 9, but punk time, so it'd probably start at like 11. They'd wait for people to get there, so people would just be like hanging out, drinking until the actual show began. or waited for more people like to get out of work and get there. But so this image is of a kid named Jason. I think he was like 17 in this photo. And the cool thing about that I love about this community is he's the shyest kid, and he asked us a lot of questions, and now his nickname is Questions. But he was always like the kid in the corner, but he was also my guide. He let me know where all the like the underground shows were at. So now he has started his own band, solo band. It's called Poster Boy 2000. And he is like so confident. It just like to see his growth as an artist is just amazing. And he has like such this big following now where I'm just like, oh my God, you're like the little kid in the corner and now like you're on stage, you know, belting it out. But yeah, his music is really cool because it's like Nintendo beats with like a hardcore like punk sound to it. I don't know, you have to listen to it. It's really fun, it's dancey, it's loud. But yeah, so that was also something that I really enjoyed, just like seeing, you know, younger people who would come to the shows and like seeing their evolution of becoming artists.
So through this community, you've met all these people and they've reconnected, and you have never met anybody you didn't like, as far as I know from your personality. But how did you get on a train was that Halloween or what was that show? You were on there was a train. It was a couple weeks back. Was it Halloween? And there was a dance show on a train.
Oh, it wasn't a train. No, I was at an event called Bike Kill. This Halloween, right? Was it this Halloween? Okay. No, so it was a bike festival. And it was called Bike Kill. It's called Bike Kill, where this collective creates these eccentric bikes. So they have like tall bikes where it's like two bikes stacked on one, where they like weld them together. So people it's like a block party of bikes, and people are just trying out all these different bikes that they created. But at the end of the night, they have a bike joust. So people are on one end of the block and the other person on the other, and they joust. They have these long like sticks with, I don't know, some type of padding at the end, and they go and joust each other. There's just so many events that are happening all the time. Yes, my friend's a part of that crew, so he invited me to come and see what they were up to and photograph it. I'll be sharing those photos soon at some point.
Like from being in that community and you having your camera all the time, have you ever influenced or anybody else getting into photography or doing any documentary stuff like the way you're doing?
Yeah, like I said, just seeing like there's a lot of young women or that are at the show, so like they see me like shooting. So I also like to encourage, like if I see them like timid, I'm like, yeah, come with me, like let's shoot. So yeah, I definitely think that people see my work or even ask me like, oh, how do you do this? And I also like to put people on too, like if I see them making work, I'm like, oh yeah, you should come to this event, or just spread the love as much as I can. And like a lot of people have helped me in my career, so I like I want to do the same for other young photographers and artists. So yeah, so along with shooting, or anyone else have a question? I'm just gonna flip through. In this space, they built like a skate ramp. The one thing that I noticed when I was shooting shows, it didn't really show the environment that much. I was so focused on the people, fans, crowd. I didn't really show what the inside of the spaces look like. So now when I'm shooting, like that's all I'm focused on. I'm like, I gotta show the entire environment that I'm in. So kind of regretted not shooting more of the entire space so you can see what it really looked like inside the venues. See, like this, I wish I shot more of the interior with people just hanging out when the show isn't happening. There's Jason, there's my guide, my guy. It's another venue, shoddy. Yeah, I don't know, any more questions? I'm gonna keep
Are they still
flipping.
doing this during the COVID time? Are they still able to, were they able to do it?
Like I said, yeah, now everything's outside, like pop-ups. People are just bringing, if they can find or they have a generator or something, people are just outside in the street doing it now. Yeah. Even in the cold, people don't like, they want to be outside, they want to hear live music. People just put on their sweaters and they're out there. Actually, I have some photos I can show you from what I've been shooting lately. So this is now. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is that little kid that was in the corner that I was like, oh, I've seen it. This is him now. Hold on. That's him now performing. This is in Chinatown outside. So now I'm trying to show more of the environment, as you can see where we're at. Some more photos.
Did the law enforcement ever give you?
Okay, here we go. I posted that today, actually. Dr. Lowe, been covering the story. I'm telling the story here.
What?
I've been getting the story. Right here, I got you. I followed the assignment. He's not even looking at it after he asked. Right here.
This way,
Right. So we had a permit. So they were coming. We had like, they came squatted up like 10. I should have got more photos of the police, but this is my friend Danny who organized the show. He was like, I got the permit. You can even talk to the person that, issued it. So he was on the phone and there was like 10 cops. They were ready. They had even like a van like ready to arrest all the people who were there. And then we were all chanting. We were like, it's our fucking park. It's our fucking park. I mean, it's a public space. You can't kick us out. And everyone's like on their phone, like going live and like recording everything. So once they, showed them, or he got him on the phone, because I don't think he had the physical permit on him, the show continued. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are some of the bands. So yeah, everything's just outside now. Yeah. Do I have anything else? Oh yeah, here's more from that show. See, now I'm getting the environment. I want to show where I'm at. I just don't want to focus on the people. I want to show my surroundings that I'm in. Also, when I'm editing now, like when I post on Instagram, like I want to move back and forth from like the crowd to the artist kind of thing, kind of so you feel like, tell the story of what it was like there. Oh, I got to share these photos with you. So I went to a drag show on the train. Oh, this is what you were talking about.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
Wait, maybe I should. Okay, I'll show you the photos and then the video of the show. So I had shot a drag show a week before, or no, a couple of days before, and I met one of the artists, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do a show on the L train," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, like send me the info." And like I didn't really understand until I got there, and they're like, "No, we're gonna do it on the subway, like inside the subway," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So this is some scenes from the drag show on the subway. Oh, Josh, somebody's knocking. Sorry, somebody's at our door. Hold on a second, sorry. Josh. Hello? Hi, 1 second.
10:15. Sure.
Hey guys, do y'all have any other questions? You gotta post them or ask them because we're cutting it close. Destiny has photos that we could look at
Sorry, I think
all the time.
I think our
So-
landlord's here. Okay. The landlord's there, I think so. Sorry, we have somebody coming. Okay, where was I? Here we go. There's more.
Oh, yeah, they're coming down. Oh, that's no problem. Okay, I'll do that, no problem. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay. So this was all happening while the train was moving. Okay. Am I going too fast while I'm doing this?
We actually reached the 10:15 time, but is there
Is
there any advice that you would give to these guys? These are all news photo kids and some photo one kids. So
I think go out, shoot as much as you can. Shoot what you want to shoot, like what you're interested in, like what story do you care about? What do you want to say with your work? Because at the end of the day, this is a reflection of you. Like whenever you make a photo, I mean, whenever I make a photo, it's, you know, in a sense, like a reflection of like, what do I want to say? So I think just follow whatever path it is that you're interested in and just shoot it. Whether it's family, whether just turn it on your family, whether it's music, whether it's, I don't know, a social justice issue, protest. Yeah, and we're in social media time, so you can network in that way to get that's how I get work. I post every day and people sometimes DM me and be like, oh, I saw your post, you shot this event, can you shoot our whatever it is? So I use social media as like a tool to get work. So
Sabrina says your work is really awesome and is asking what your Instagram is.
oh yeah, it's just my name, destiny.mata. It's on that, yeah, it's at the top here. You guys can see destiny.mata. All right, any more questions? Are we good? You guys can DM me, email me. Actually, I'll be in Texas too, so hopefully I get to see Dr. Lowe and Trisha at some point when I'm there. Or follow me, because I'll find the events that are happening in San Antonio. I'm tapped in.
When are you